What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards Football. I'm your host and producer, Logan Landers. Joining me here today to break down the upcoming SEC matchup between the Texas A&M Aggies, who are ranked number 10 in the nation, 7-1 on the year. They'll be going up against the South Carolina Gamecocks, currently unranked 4-3 on the year. Helping me out is, of course, Jay McLovin from the Elite Sports and Entertainment Network. But Jay, before you get into your analysis, if you guys want to check out this game, it's going to be at 7:30 p.m. That's going to be Eastern Standard Time this upcoming Saturday, Jay, on ABC. And is there a hotter team in college football right now than the Texas A&M Aggies? If so, it's very few and far between, I think.
Yeah, I would probably say probably Miami, maybe Penn State.
Yeah, but they're right up there.
I guess you could throw BYU in there in terms of hot teams, right? But A&M is right there with them. I mean, they're number 10 right now in the rankings. I wouldn't be surprised if they move up a little higher as we get more into it. But yeah, so you got 7-1 Yankee A&M Aggies against 4-3 Gamecocks. When you look at the tapes in terms of stats, you got Texas quarterback Wegman, who got 62 out of 109 completions for 782, 3 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. You never want to see when you have more interceptions than touchdowns. So I think that could be an issue for these guys. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out against Sellers for South Carolina, who's 88 out of 140 for 968. 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So both of these teams have, 4 interceptions out of their quarterbacks. But unfortunately, though, that Sellers has 2 more touchdowns. So I'm going to give a slight edge to Sellers in the Gamecocks at the quarterback position. When you look at the running back, you got Moss for Texas, who's got 119 carries for 751 yards. But he's got 10 touchdowns, Logan. And he's averaging 6.3 yards a carry. I don't know how you can outbeat that. Even when you look at Sanders over there on the other side of the coin for South Carolina, he's got 96 carries at 426 and 6 touchdowns, but he's only averaging 4.4. He's got a little more pedestrian yards per carry. But then when you look at the wide receivers, you have Thomas for Texas A&M with 22 catches at 343 and 3 touchdowns. And then you look at Bennett for South Carolina, who's got 19 catches for 270 and 3 touchdowns. So, again, I kind of get a slight edge at the wide receiver spot over there at Texas A&M, but that running back spot as well. I mean, all 3 of them, honestly, are quite impressive. Obviously, the only loss they have is Notre Dame, and that was 23-13. But when you look at who they've beaten, which is LSU and Missouri, you can see that they've had a little bit stronger strength of schedule as compared to what South Carolina has faced. Now they have lost to Alabama 27-25 and Ole Miss at 27-3 and LSU 36-33. So it's not like they're not playing people; they're playing people. It's just they're either getting close at barely beating them, or they've lost quite a bit. So those are 3 pretty hard losses to take, honestly. Excuse me, I would say probably Kentucky, Ole Miss, Arkansas, Tennessee. Those are they've been underdogs in a lot of ways. I'm talking about South Carolina, right? Have been underdogs. Vanderbilt obviously outbeat Alabama. So South Carolina, should be well rested, Logan, after the bye week. To come in and play A&M, who, let's be honest, there's A&M swap quarterbacks. It's weird to me about these Texas teams. This is not the first time we've seen swapping of quarterbacks, right? I mean, we saw it with the Longhorns against Georgia. Now we see it with A&M. When they had that comeback win over LSU. Now, luckily for A&M, unfortunately, like Texas, they actually got the win when they swapped quarterbacks. I don't know if that's something you necessarily always want to do, but they did get lucky in this game. Texas A&M, again, the only undefeated team versus SEC play. So even though I know A&M has a loss, it didn't come against an SEC opponent. So they're still undefeated when they're going up against an SEC opponent, unlike South Carolina, who's lost 3 games to an SEC opponent. So keep that in mind. Can the can South Carolina's defensive line contain the ground game of A&M, and that's 6.3 yards? I think that's really a big factor there. If South Carolina wants to get this win, they're going to have to shut down Moss in that run game. If they can, and basically force Wegman to outplay him. And I got to be honest with you, Wegman with that 4 interceptions and only 3 touchdowns, that's a huge thing, Logan. And I think that's going to be, if I had to say what the key thing is right there for this game, is South Carolina containing the run. And obviously, if I'm Texas A&M, I want to be able to run the ball over SEC. So that offensive run game versus South Carolina defense, I think that's the biggest key of the game right there. I think the leaders for South Carolina is defensive backs. I can't say that guy's name. Can you say that last name? Emanwari. Thank you, man.
Nick Emanwari.
Some of these names, Logan. I mean, holy cow. Yeah. So Emanwari, he's got 49 tackles and 4 interceptions. And then you look at the defensive end, Kennard, who's got 8.5 sacks. So South Carolina has got to use those defensive weapons to contain Texas A&M, and this could be an upset, but I'm not going to go that route. But I can see how this game could be an upset. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go with South. I'm going to go with A&M, but I think it's going to be a close game. I'm going to go 23-20 in favor of A&M.
I just have 2 words, Jay, to say about Texas A&M: quarterback controversy? ?
What?
I mean, we saw what happened against LSU. We saw what happened. Connor Wegman got benched. Mike Elko said, all right, buddy, enough's enough. We got to get something going here. So Connor's, as quarterback should, he's at the bench. In comes Marcel Reed. And know that he light it up through the air? Not at all. 2 of 2 for 70 yards. I mean, you're averaging 35 yards to throw. That's pretty solid. But he threw the ball twice in 2 quarters. So, but where he did get it done, though, Jay, with the legs. Jay, he was responsible for 3 touchdowns. 9 carries for 62 yards. I mean, overall, the A&M running game was on fire last week against LSU. 49 carries, 242, and 5 rushing touchdowns. That's insane in today's game. The fact they were able to beat, Jay, a top 10 ranked team with essentially their backup quarterback and poor quarterback play through the first 2 quarters speaks to how good this team is, I would say, and how gelled they are on especially defense. I mean, other than Garrett Nussmeier lighting them up like a Christmas tree, 25 of 50. Yes, 25 of 50, Jay, 50% right even there. 405, though, but 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. So that means he was chucking it like crazy, but they were picking him off a couple times. Look at this A&M team. It's interesting. Like you said, they've rattled off 7 wins in a row, 5-0 in conference play in the SEC, the toughest division in football. They lost week 1 to Notre Dame, 23-13, but since then they have just been winning after win after win after win. And also, Jay, this is continuing their streak of SEC play. They beat Arkansas. They beat Missouri, who was number 9. They beat Mississippi State. And as I just said, they beat LSU last week. So now they are facing off against South Carolina. Should be relatively an easy game. Maybe, maybe not. When you look at this South Carolina team, talk to them. Lenora Sellers getting close to 1,000 yards passing, 5 touchdowns, 4 picks. But, Jay, the offensive line, for the love of God, they got to do something. If the offensive line doesn't show up on Saturday, this team's cooked. They're done for. He's got 25 sacks on the year. They gotta get going if they want to win this ball game. And I say that because when you look at Texas A&M, this is a really, really solid team on offense and on defense. I mean, when you look at the defensive side of the ball for the Aggies, Jay, right now they've got 19 sacks. That is a solid number. They've got really good players. You got Nick Scourton, 5 sacks on the season. He is an absolute monster. And Cassius Howell, as well as Shamar Turner behind him. Both of those gentlemen racking up 2 sacks apiece so far on this season. So it's really, I mean, you said it, it's going to be the offensive line of South Carolina. Can they do something? Can they protect their quarterbacks? Can they get their running backs going? Raheem Sanders, 426, 96 carries, 4.4 average, 6 touchdowns. I mean, Jay, I mean, that's pretty solid numbers. You can win with that. If you can continue to run the ball at that clip, you have a fighting chance, I think. So, got to get something going there. Got to protect your line. Got to get your quarterback going in a rhythm. Got to have ways for your running back to get through the holes there. Receiving game, they've got, I mean, it's really just a who's who in a sense of there's not really one person that stands out in a sense. I mean, Mazeo Bennett Jr. is your top receiver, Jay, but he's only got 19 catches for 270 yards. They spread the love there in South Carolina. There's multiple players. There's 5 players I'm seeing that have 10-plus catches on the season and over 100-plus yards. So there's really no true number one receiver for the Gamecocks, but I think maybe in games like this, Jay, that is a benefit of theirs because there is no, oh, we got to double team this guy. Circle this guy on the screen. He's going to be always open because they just kind of throw it to whoever they can find. We do have a comment here saying that the Gamecocks, Jay, they're going to win 23-10. So big upset there on YouTube. Appreciate the comment.
Wow.
But
okay.
I think that you said it best. If A&M can, first off, figure out who's going to be starting. They haven't even said that, I don't think. Is it going to be Wegman? Is it going to be Reed? I don't know yet. We'll see on Saturday night. But got to have Le'Veon Moss. You mentioned him. Le'Veon Moss has been great this year. 757, 119 carries, 10 TDs for him. But also, let's not gloss over the running back behind him, Jay, the backup in Amari Daniels. He's got 81 carries, 383, 4.7 average, Jay, but he finds pay dirt 5 times. And as we mentioned, Marcel Reed had 3 of his 5 touchdowns on the ground last week. So I think A&M's going to win this ball game, but I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be a blowout only because they beat LSU last week, but you replaced your starting quarterback and you still won, which means this is a good team. And Jay, sometimes you need a little bit of luck. And I think they got a little bit lucky last week with all of that. But I think that they'll win this week against South Carolina. It's not going to be a blowout, I don't think. If it does, it'll surprise me. So I'm going to go final score in this one. Give me the Texas A&M Aggies 28 and give me the South Carolina Gamecocks 21. Yes, just a 1 touchdown difference. I think South Carolina, like you said, that they've had a very interesting season. When you look at them, 4-3, obviously 12th in the SEC. Look, it's hard for these guys to beat the top-ranked teams in their division, in their conference. It's tough right there, right? I mean, they beat Oklahoma last week, and we've talked about Oklahoma. They've got some problems. But they lost to Alabama by only 2 points, and then the other teams they faced, they got beat bad by Ole Miss. But, Jay, against LSU, right? Only lost by 3 points. So they are playing teams tough. It's either they play them close or they get blown out. There really is no in-between. So We'll see what happens with South Carolina this week. Like I said, I think this will be a close game, 7-point difference for me. I know you have it close as well. So we'll see what happens on Saturday night. Guys, drop a comment on Facebook or YouTube. Let us know who's going to win. Will it be the upset in South Carolina, or will the Texas A&M Aggies continue their winning ways and improve their win streak to 8? Let us know in the comments. As always, for Jay McLovin, I've been your host and producer, Logan Landers. Guys, we'll talk again on another live episode. We'll see you then.